Welcome back. Let's talk about the latest inflation figures released by the Nigerian Bureau, the National Bureau of Statistics, which is Nigerian, of course. It's called the CPI. And if you look closely at those figures, you find some very interesting developments. So the latest figures released by the NBS for December, right, 2025 shows that Nigeria's inflation now stands at 15.15 for December, right? And there you have it. But if you look at the figure for November 2025, on that particular trend, you see that it's at 17.33, right, based on the latest figures. But if you remember quite well, you'll recall that last year, the inflation figure for November 2025, according to the NBS, was 14.45, right? And that is, if you switch to the next image, you'll see 14.45 for last year. So it's quite confusing to see that with the latest trend that was released, inflation figure for November is 17%, not the 14% that was reported by NBS. So you find different headlines. Some saying that our inflation figure increased for the first time. NBS saying no, it even dropped further. So what it shows is that we've had like a 3% discrepancy in our inflation figure reporting for most of last year. Recall that there was the rebasing of inflation figures. So from January of last year, we started seeing lower inflation figures because it was rebased, the basket was tweaked and all of that. So what exactly is at play here? Which inflation figure do we believe? Don't forget the government said it was targeting 15%. So when we saw the 14%, a lot of people said, oh yes, the government beats the target. But no, it was actually 17%. Based on the NBS figures. We're joined by Mr. Paul Alaje, who is Chief Economist at SPM Professionals, joins us virtually on the program this morning. Mr. Alaje, you're welcome to the show. You see, when we see figures and we're trying to wrap our head around it, what is going on? We come to people like you. So please help us make sense of the latest inflation figure released by the NBS. Says our inflation for December is 15% and for November is 17%. When it had said that for November, it was 14%. Please unmute, Mr. Alaje. Thank you. All right, we have to get Mr. Alaje through, so let's just sort that out. But it's very interesting. It means one of many things. The NBS has been underreporting our inflation figures.
Typo error.
Is it? Clearly it isn't.
Economics.
Or is it, has it rebased, if there's anything like that? Has there been a tweak?
Because as you said, you can look at it to say, because you're supposed to draw a curve.
Yeah.
So you can see the trend is coming down, significant, maybe 10% from 24 when we rebase, down to 14 in November. So that curve is supposed to decelerate in that sense.
In fact, it has now changed to 27.
So yes,
from the 24.
Yes, from the 24. Well, so I'm not sure what is going on here because this is very difficult to to consume. So for this particular year, from their data, so we're looking at, this is published by NBS, for January 2025, based on what they released for their December 2025, it showed that as of January 2025, it was 27.61. But what was reported with the November figure in the mappings they do was 24%. So NBS needs to explain to us exactly why it is. So the discrepancy is, is almost treasonable, borderline, because statistics is what helps policymakers make decisions. The citizens understand where their government is leading them to. So that's why we're big on numbers. Economists, you don't debate, you don't argue with facts. You just explain the facts that are behind those figures at the end of the day. So if there are discrepancies around these figures, then it's a very concerning situation. It's a very concerning situation. So the NBS may have to come and explain to us why there's a clear discrepancy as to the curve from 2025 January to November, and different curve from 2025 January to December. Two different sets of numbers. January 2025, we had 27%. But they reported from the November number, which we celebrated when it came out in January 2025, we reported 24%. So the NBS needs to come and explain to us what exactly is going on. But maybe Mr. Alaje, he has not joined us yet. Guys, I was going to...
and Jeffrey, if you look at the report, they're saying the inflation eased to 15.15% in December 2025, following a methodological review. So are we reporting another change in method of calculation as was done last year when inflation began to change in terms of calculation significantly? Is that what the NBS is saying? And besides that, shouldn't them also be acknowledging a mistake in the calculation of the inflation figure for November 2025 and apologize to the entire nation for what seems to be a misleading information provided?
Well, there's something called artificial spike, maybe arising from base effect. I don't know whether this is whatever. I don't want to make excuses for them, for the NBS, because this is a data dashboard. That's why I want Mr. Alaje to do that explainer, but there could be that possibility. There's also the possibility, in fact, I have an original problem with them. When the COI cup classification according to consumption and all of that, when the COI cup, the rebasing actually happened because they changed the weightage. The usual weightage of food and beverages used to be 51. They reduced it to 40, I think 40 or 41, and then took that number to restaurant and some other thing that used to be 2 to about 10, 12. The idea is that people are eating more outdoor and all of that, which I totally disagree. That kind of affected the whole rebate because they increased the basket size from 700 to 900. So even the COI cup itself, there was an argument among professionals as to how they arrived at what. But the argument will always be best practices around the world. And that is why sometimes our data looks detached from our reality in the name of best practices.
Jeffrey, that's not sometimes, many times.
I should just mention that this is perhaps vindication for you, Jeffrey, because you had said that 15% target for last year would not be met. But that's, by the way, Mr. Alaje, I imagine we have you now.
Sir.
Good morning, Mr. Alaje. Please speak to us.
Good morning, sir. Thank you so very much for having me.
It's good to have you. So, a review of the methodology on the reporting of our inflation figures. What do you make of the discrepancy?
Well, I would want to say that the new inflation number has reviewed the rebate series. Of course, for November, what was released before was 14%. But now that we have year on year, I think what the Bureau of Statistics has done is to review the series from beginning of the year to end of the year. And that is why the number has changed. What it means is that the experience we had in November, in fact, would have been that 17%, while based on the new rebase number, recall that I was, I think, among those who had consistently mentioned that the inflation we are having right now, it is based on the rebased number, so that people are very clear as to, oh, I'm going to the market, I'm not seeing exactly the prices that I'm expecting. What Bureau of Statistics is saying is that having rebased this basket of commodity, this is what inflation is now. So if you are following that rebase number, the truth is that that is what inflation will be. A number of persons have also asked me, are we not targeting what the president have said in time? That was, I think, January or December, either January 2025 or December 2024, that maybe we are working to the answer. And I said, that may not necessarily be so. What Bureau of Statistics has done is to rebase the numbers, and having rebased the numbers, it may not exactly reflect our realities, which is the truth. So the price that was growing at an average, when I say price is growing, I mean the average increase in price at an average of about 34%. Now we are seeing the same increase, added to the previous one, but now increasing at an average of 15%. We may not even know exactly what this rate of increase will be until we get to that March, April, that's this year 2026. But clearly speaking, what I've seen them done is to now normalize what you have from January, I think January, February, March, April till now. So you would see those numbers change. That is perhaps the reason why you have this change that Bureau of Statistics has reported. I will not want to say, it would be unprofessional for me to say that they are underreporting the numbers. I don't think so. I recall that in 2021 or 2019, there is something like this that happened. We have certain number for inflation, and after the new number was reported, the NBS reported that we did a recalculation of the inflation numbers before they gave what was published before, because I remember I was on the show that particular morning where the anchor asked me what accounted for review of the numbers, and NBS responded by saying that yes, we had reported the number, but we recalculated to be sure of the number to be published. So, but I don't think it's the same thing in this case. I think it's normalization of the rebasing of the inflation number. And I've mentioned before now on different platforms that when you rebase, it's an outlier period. The rebasing period is an outlier period. It will not exactly be what you are experiencing until you have gotten to year-on-year period. And I think that the effective time to look at this will be around March, April. And even when you get there, I'm not expecting inflation to now jump to about 70% or 60% or 30%. So we need to be careful. So those who are saying that, oh, NBS lied, I think they also need to be careful. Those that are saying that, oh, NBS has said the truth, you also need to be careful. This is not the time to say that. I think some persons have posted and mentioned to me that inflation was going to be 30%. I said, all of those ones, we are just skimming. Let the number be reported. Now, what will happen is that the way you see inflation at 84% and the economic impact it had on you, the number will reduce. The economic impact may still be the same, and I think it will still be the same. So, but what we have done successfully is to say that the impact will not be as much as we have had. I mean, the impact may still be as much, but over time, it might reduce. But what we have done technically is to normalize the number to give us what we have now. So if you ask me what November is, I will tell you November, although you have seen it at 14%, which was reported earlier, clearly but now it's reported at 17%.
But Mr. Alaje, even in normalization, borrowing your words, are we not supposed to see some form of consistency? And even if, perhaps consistency is not the word, are we not supposed to see a minimal change in the figures? But what we have seen is something that is significant. For instance, what was reported in November 2025 was 14.45%, I believe. But in the update that has now been provided for December, the NBS is reporting is inflation easing to 15.15%. That is significant and changing the numbers. So isn't this a clear error?
Okay, yeah, so I respond to that. If you look at what they have reported based on the rebasing, it gave 14%. But I think most importantly, what you need to look at is that NBS has come to say is a revisit of what they've done before. So when you revisit and they saw that this, what they have had from, I think, March till November needs to be normalized, is why they took the action. I think the right thing to be done is for NBS to issue a publication, so that, to issue a circular to that effect, so that the public will understand the statistical impact and what has led to statistical changes in the numbers. I think that would be very, very important. I'm trying as much as possible not to state the technical words, because at the end of the day, for most of the viewers, it may not really help. But what is important here is that the inflation number you see now, we are going through a period of an outlier, and I've mentioned it, a period where, because we are rebasing, and when you are rebasing, you may not see exactly what you have done before now, what you may not experience what the inflation number is saying. Truly, in November it was 14%, but it's been adjusted now to 17%. And if you ask me what would be the official number, it will be that 17%, while this will be why this will be 15%. I think where we run into trouble here is that we have celebrated 14%. All of us have been very happy about 14%, but it appears as though the number was not as improved as we claimed in November last year.
Yeah, economists may be able to explain around this, but for the average man, they lied. That's the unfortunate thing. So I totally agree with you that the NBS has to come and explain this methodology, computational issues. I know that I think the Nigerian Economic Summit Group also raised some concerns about engaging stakeholders to be able to explain all of this. But if we go beyond the numbers, because at the end of the day, it is how the people experience their own lived-in experience that is important. There's one question I've always held on to, and I would like you to respond to it, and that has to do with this methodology issue. With my little background with these numbers, I've had problems with adopting some international methodology based on our own different set of realities. So most of the time it looks detached. Most times it looks detached. So remember the ILO issue, the issue around the employment numbers, where we're doing about 33, 34, and all of that. And then we did the adjustment and we standardized it to global best practice. We ended up from 40 hours to 1 hour, and we questioned it, and they're saying, okay, this is the best practice. We're now doing 4 to 5%, which gives the average Nigerian leader lack of sense of urgency. Now we have done this COICOP rearrangement, increasing we have rearranged the COICOP, distributed the weightage, giving more numbers to restaurant and all of that, and that's why we are coming here. Because it is, in economics, the model is never wrong, but how you adjust it will affect the output at the end of the day. So help us walk through, should we be adopting international best practices when it comes to our reality as far as these numbers are concerned, or we're just a hyperbole from some of us?
Okay, so that is a very important question. First of all, let me mention what inflation is. When you talk about the increase in the average price level of a country, usually a period of a year, some countries measure it quarterly. For Nigeria, we say it's a period of 1 year. Now, what are we referring to? We meant in 2023 to 2024, average price level increased year on year by about 34% or 33%. Now we are saying that we now have a new level, which is now plus basket of commodity reported by the Bureau of Statistics about 34%. We are now asking again, for 2025, what has that increase been? Bureau of Statistics is saying that it has now increased, remember that 34% is already inside, by 15.15%. So first of all, people need to be assured that we are not saying that Bureau of Statistics from the report is not saying that inflation has reduced. They say inflation is easing. What does it mean? Easing and reduction, they are two different things. Reduction means that we are disinflating. Easing means that inflation is growing at a reduced rate, at a reduced pace. Although it's still growing, but at a reduced pace. So here is the point. We have adjusted methodology. You know, I've been very vehement in speaking against methodology adjustment, especially the employment that you mentioned, because an official of government, when the Bureau of Statistics genuinely launched the new methodology, commented, and I was there. I was not told. It's not on television. I was there. The official of government, I saw him. He said it. And the video is everywhere, that, oh, maybe we have even overbeaten ourselves. Maybe we are even working too hard for us to combat unemployment. Because if our number is just 5%, because Bureau of Statistics reported 5-point-something% at that time. And I'm like, has this man even read the report to be sure that what we adjusted is the number of hours from 20 hours to 1 hour? So the danger here is that those who have changed the methodology have said that, please, in reporting, the way you fight for 20/20, it is now 1 hour of that 20. So if you say 5% in 1 hour, you should even be more worried compared to when you have seen 33% in 20 hours. But that is not the way we see it. So it's important for education to be provided to those who make policy, to those who take decisions, that when methodology changes, what we need to look at is now beyond the numbers. It is the activity of the people underneath the numbers. The same for inflation. Inflation today, we have adjusted the COI cup. We have also seen some significant drop from, I think, 34% to about 24%. The first time when that was reviewed, to about 27 or 24%. It was a big drop in inflation. And I'm happy that the SG, Secretary General, said that, oh, this drop is not going to reflect, is not about pricing in the market dropping, but it's an adjustment and the exercise. And I remember I spoke with your colleague, Shiwon Kimbaloye, where he asked me that evening that what do I think are the benefits and the merits. I said one benefit of this is that over time, investors will come and see our numbers, because before they come, they look at the numbers. And that gives confidence that the economy they are going to has relatively lower inflation. And that's what Russia did. That's what many countries, Argentina inflation got over 100%. It's now around 30% or even, I don't know if it's going less now. So countries do it at an average of 5 to 10 years. They do it. But here is the point. For most countries that have done it, they also work on the overall economy. They also ensure that food inflation came down. They also did a number of things. I gave you one of the states that I was quite impressed about this, is Plateau. I saw that Plateau State has one of the lowest inflation when it comes to subnational. Meanwhile, two states that had the high inflation shocked me, because I was actually expecting them to have more lower inflation. So the point here is that we need to pay attention beyond the headlines. The headline may be saying 15%. I've asked people, what is your personal inflation saying? And that is where attention should be paid to. What is happening in your state? What is happening at your level? The headline inflation is being normalized now. And I think that you might still be seeing the figure until, say, March, April, before you can say, okay, yes. So I think in our normalization process, we have gone year on year conveniently, and one can see the number. And I think that this number may remain at an average based on the new rebase number. Because if I tell you for the old number, it will be a different thing entirely. But as a citizen, let's stay with what the official of government, that's the Bureau of Statistics, has published. The number may remain around, I think, 14 to about 18.5, I think 18.65%, based on our model, econometric model in our organization. That is what you see. Over time, things will adjust to it. But effort from government must be very clear. Effort for government must be very huge. Effort from government must be very certain, so that as the number is reducing, the impact in life of people is also magnified.
It would seem that month on month, the change is still consistent, whether you're looking at the new methodology in some sense or the old one. It's the year on year that is the big deal now. So I'll just ask you, Mr. Alaje, straight up, this 15.15% that we're seeing right now, can we take it to the bank? Can we trust it?
Yes, you can trust it based on the new methodology. But please, taking it to the bank is a different kettle of fish. If not, why will our MPR be higher than inflation? So the biggest bank is the CBN. So if we are taking it to the bank, why is the lending rate over 30%? So I think you have my answers. Because I mentioned to you, we are going through an outlier period. Check most of the reports, international organization, the one they mail to us all the time, they are still talking about high inflation. And NBS is not saying inflation is not high. NBS is saying we are going through a period of normalization and rebasing. And in every nation that have rebased, we have what we call rebasing effects. I've said time and again that major reduction you have, even though we have seen stability in exchange rate, kudos to the central bank. We have seen stability in exchange rate. We have also seen our reserve increase significantly. I think it's about 50 to 60% of what it was in 2023. We have seen major boosts in our reserve. But all of these does not contribute to the majority of the impact of reduction in inflation. What contributes to the majority of the impact in the improvement on our inflation number is the rebasing effect. So can you now take rebasing effect to the bank? The answer is no. So how you check is what is happening to lending rates. What is happening to lending rates? Because that could be calculated. So interest rate is still very high. You can see the decision taken by MPC regarding NPR. They are also still watching. They also want to be very careful so that we don't use inflation that we have rebased and use that to ease rate, when you use that to ease rate, it might even eventually affect what the money supply is saying. So central bank is being careful and conscious with their decision. And I think it's right with the decision they are taking. So but I also think that Bureau of Statistics might be looking at a long-term goal for this rebasement.
So if there's a consensus that what the NBS is putting out is at variance with the reality of Nigerians, from where you stand as an economist, what really is the realistic inflation rate that Nigeria is currently experiencing?
Okay, so I have said it before and I almost got into trouble, honestly. And I'll tell you that, you see, I'm not in position to share what the realistic rate will be. What I do is that I advise people, I advise clients, and I advise nations to a kind of decision they can make. And I tell you, when I advise other investors outside Nigeria about Nigeria, Nigeria is the best place to be. Nigeria is the best place to invest. Yes, inflation experience may be higher than the numbers, but I can tell you that when it comes to investing in Nigeria, this is the place to put your money. This is the place to invest, irrespective of whether Nigerians are happy or not. Now we have very low, what's it called? Income in Nigeria is quite low, so you can have relatively cheaper labor. People are willing to be employed, and I think that policies are opening up. So that's my advice to foreigners if they are coming to Nigeria. But for businesses in Nigeria, I also give them an advice that has to do with, you need to watch what NPR is saying in this period of outlier. Watch NPR is saying. Is NPR making adjustments? If not, you need to watch it. Are you getting what we call variation? If you are getting variation in the, are you getting variation in the numbers? If you are not getting that, then it's important for you to get it ASAP. Right. So those are my advice as it has to do with the overall stuff.
Ms. Alaje, just one more advice I would like you to give to Nigerians. So we can pass this to be maybe an artificial spike or drop based on base effect, all of those explainers. But what Nigerians want to see is their improved quality of lives at the end of the day. Now, I want you to give them an advice realistically. So this is what I mean. There was a day I went to buy, I wasn't buying eggs, so I just went there. I think I was sent to go and get just one egg. I was used to buying that egg, I think 20 naira or 15 naira, I can't remember. When they told me it's 250, I was a bit confused. I had to go to another shop. I'm telling you, I had to, where was I when this thing moved from 50 to 250 to even 300? I don't know how much it is now. It's been a while. So the Nigerian wants to see, for them, whatever Bola Tinubu is doing, he has failed if they don't see that egg move from the 250 he took it to the 59. That is the way Nigerians understand development, growth, and numbers. So based on what I've just explained, please talk to Nigerians.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is that the process that you have seen NBS reported, it is international best practice contained by Consumer Price Index of International Monetary Fund, which is the IMF approved in compliance with IMF. That is why they carried out re-referencing. That is why they re-referenced what you have in November and some other months. That is why that decision was taken, because and it also has to do with West African agreement among Committee of Nations within the West Africa, so that they will have harmonized number. That is why I just have to reference the report. And I noticed that Bureau of Statistics actually issued a report to that effect on their, I think on their website, so that people can see that. And so you have seen that adjustment. Like I said, they have referenced or what they have published before. Now, how does this affect the people? How does it affect them? At the end of the day, what matters to people is what is food prices saying, what is item of commodities saying. And for now, I can tell you that the prices of food, of some food item have reduced. Some food item have in fact increased. Rent and accommodation prices are still increasing. The work will be with those who are leading us at the federal, at the state, and at the local government to be more intense with their policy, so that we can have reduced prices and it can have impact on the number collected and the number published by the National Bureau of Statistics.
Mr. Alaje, thank you for providing the much needed clarity. I must say that we actually reached out to the National Bureau of Statistics. The good news is that they will be on our Business Morning Show by 10 a.m. So if you want more clarity on those figures, how they came to be, absolutely stay with us right here on Channels Television. But we have to thank you once again, Mr. Paul Alaje, Chief Economist at SPM Professionals. Always great to speak with you, Mr. Alaje.
Thank you so much for having me.